Hello everyone and welcome back to Cities by Steven. You're talking to Steven. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button, get that bell notification on too so you don't miss out on a video. Welcome back to the channel where last time we were here, we started our new city. Oracle Valley is the region that we're building in, and we started the town of Port Roberts. And I am so excited to bring you today's episode where we will be achieving Boom Town. We're just going to push for the expansion of the town, you know, to get us to that next population level. And then we are also going to look at getting in some themes in play today. So let's hop out and take a look at what we did in the first episode. So here is the town of Port Roberts. It's a historic waterfront town, but we haven't built at the waterfront yet. We started out over here with this interchange over on this side of the map, and then we swung down. We built up a nice little grid here. We got a little bridge across a ravine, and yeah, all in all, great starting city. We have a secondary temporary industrial hub. That's also where our power, our garbage, and our wastewater is. So this will get moved eventually, but I'm going to really focus on this part of the map today. So here is where we are situated on the map Oracle Valley from the Promenades and Plazas DLC, and I am really loving this map. So we need to achieve Boom Town. We're not that far off. I've simmed a little bit, but only 10 minutes or so since the last time we played, and look at our money. We are doing well. Our balance is pretty good too. We have a good balance between industry, commercial, and residential, so I feel pretty comfortable pushing some residential expansion. Now, last time we were here, we achieved Tiny Town at the end of the episode, but we're going to push towards Boom Town, so we need about 800 more people. But going through this, there are some things that we didn't end up doing last time, like park areas, so we'll try to get that in today. We also didn't get the medical clinic and an elementary school in, so we will do that today as well. So since we have some residential demand, let's expand the grid beyond historic Port Roberts. I did change the name of this to historic Port Roberts because I think we're going to have yet another district in here, which is going to be, more modern Port Roberts. So we got Port Roberts waterfront down here, historic Port Roberts, and probably just Port Roberts over on this side. So we're working with a pretty tight grid, and I'll still use our rural roads for a little bit. And over here we're using a pretty simple 6-unit grid. So I think what we'll do is we'll do a full 8-unit grid on this side of Monarch Avenue, which is going to kind of split the town between its historic side and its more modern side. So I figured, what better place to grow the grid. These grid changes also really help with the look of a town as well. You can really tell a story just by something simple like that. So this road lines up with this one here, which I believe is 14th Street. So we'll continue 14th Street up on this side of the park in Monarch Avenue at a later time. So I'm just going to bring this one up about 32 units. I think this is the same grid that we're using down here, so I think it'll be a little bit different. So let's just expand up to roughly that point with our new unit-sized grid. All right, so that is a pretty good expansion, and we can already see just kind of from at this angle that this grid is much larger than the one down in here. I think this is going to play pretty nicely. So Monarch Avenue, I'm planning on keeping this one to be, a street that was once just kind of a normal road in the town, a main road, but has since really evolved into something a bit grander, a bit more of a main arterial of the region. So I actually don't mind if we get residential along here, but I think a mixed kind of use between residential and commercial is probably best. So I'm just going to save the buildings along the side of Monarch Avenue for a little bit, and we'll place them down later on in the episode. All right, so we got some residential zoning up, and now let's talk about getting in that med clinic and the elementary school. So the med clinic, pretty simply enough, this will help prolong the lives of your citizens, which is, very useful and a must-have for any city. So where should this really be, right? It should be pretty close to a downtown center. I don't mind it being off of a main road exactly, but I think maybe on a secondary street it could be good. So why don't we place this right here? Seems like a decent spot. And then what I'll do is I'll just remove the residential zoning right around it, and then this can be a bit more of a prominent location. So I did forget water already in this episode, so let's just go through and add that. I will clean up the water pipes down the line. All right, so that is going to add a bit of a land bonus as well, but now let's get our elementary school in. Now, the elementary school is a great little addition here because you can do a lot with just this one asset and a fence. So let's take the same road. Actually, let's take a bit more of a main road. Let's take this one here, which I believe is 4th Street. You can see it right down on this side. We're going to place this right here, right across from potentially a park down the line. So let's first of all upgrade the roads around it, because when you're building on dirt roads, sometimes when you place assets down, things get a little funky, so it's good to just upgrade the roads around them first. We should have done this one as well. All good. So I placed this asset down so that we have the parking against the road here, which is great. But now we have fences unlocked as well, and this will allow us to kind of detail without actually really detailing this. So let's turn off our guidelines. It's going to make things a little bit easier. And then let's take a look at what the asset is asking from us. So there's a fence right here. So I believe that would be a good spot to get a bit of a gate. So if we put our fence right here, we leave a bit of space there between our two fences, and it will in turn create a bit of a gate. So let's go to about halfway through this square. We'll bring it all the way up, right up against the road, and then to, again, about this corner, and we'll bring it down to this side, leaving a bit of space to kind of have like a bit of a pedestrian access point. And there you go, we have the schoolyard. All we did was place the asset down and get a fence in. I used the forestry fence because I like the style. I think it works out really nicely with kind of a nice classic suburban fence. But if you want to detail it up a little bit more, sometimes in playgrounds there's like a nice little rock. You can place a couple rocks together to make a bit of a bigger rock. And then, you can always add in a tree or two. So let's use a pine tree. There you go, pretty simple schoolyard. The asset already has a playground attached to it. So yeah, it works out great. So I'm just kind of finishing up here. I'm looking at our city. It's going pretty good. We're still waiting. We still have some residential demand in place here. And I'm looking at our watch it tab, and what do we need? Well, looks like our water availability is getting a little low. So we have two options here. We do have the capital, so we could just spend our money and get a second water tower, or we can go into our budget and bump up our water to 150. This will then get us to it'll give us a bit of time before we need to spend money on getting a second water tower. Okay, so we're really getting close to the next milestone, but we have a ton of demand. We do have some commercial demand, we do have some industrial demand. So let's get a bit of commercial demand in place right now. So we're back along Monarch Street, right behind the med clinic. And I'm just going to fill in the commercial, or the zone behind this, with commercial. Whenever I have commercial backing onto residential, I like to leave 1 unit space. You can come back afterwards when you're done the build, and you can just grab a fence. I like the iron fence, for example. And then right behind the commercial, just running the fence along. Works out really nicely with our med clinic because we have the hedge, which kind of works like a fence. And I think an iron fence works out really nicely for the separation between residential and commercial. So we do have a bit more. So we could continue that theme along here on this side. But on this side, I think we originally said that since this is historic Port Roberts, that this should be residential. So we previously had this whole grid into a residential zone, but we split it up so that we have small houses on this side and we'll have bigger houses on this side. All right, so now that this is growing in really nicely, we have a few options of what we can do now. We do have some residential demand back. We still have a bunch of commercial, but we have a ton of industrial demand. So we're going to go to our temporary industry zone over here and just grow it a little bit larger than it currently is. But in the meantime, I'm just going to fill up just this with residential. So here we are. Now we will just expand this a bit farther. Now again, I just want to reiterate that this is just a temporary place to put your industrial demand in here until you start getting, some larger expansion projects where, maybe you start a forestry industry or you start a farm, for example. I'm not saying that I'm going to start a farm here, nor am I saying I'm going to start a forestry industry here, but just an example that does eat into your industrial demand. So you can then remove this. Also, when we decide on a location for our landfill, we'll take the landfill out of here. Same thing with our sewage treatment plant and our power plants. So this is just a good kind of stopgap. All right, so we ate into our industrial demand a little bit, but there are a few other spots around the map that we can throw a bit of industry. And I'm looking at this spot in here, which is in our Fort Prairie. That's our other series. Port Roberts. So I'm thinking we can get a bit of industry in here, and I'll turn off zoning along that road right there, and we will just zone this up a little bit. I think we should be good with that. Now, this part of the road, from about this road here along Robert Street, where this highway connects with Robert Street, I'm sure it was realigned at some point to connect with Front Street a little bit. So I don't mind kind of removing any zoning along here, which probably existed in the colonial era. But adding a bit of industry down here is really going to help out. And then if we go on to the other side over here, we can do the same thing. Now, there is a bit of a faux pas to zone industry right beside your residential. I am aware of that, but in this case, I'm going to zone it up right in this square, or kind of square, and I'm okay with it because I know that this is going to happen. I know that there's going to be some issues with maybe a bit of noise, but since we're using a specialization, I don't believe it's going to be nearly as much of an issue as if we were using manufacturing industry or generic industry like over here. And oh my goodness, I forgot water again. All right, so since we have so much demand, it's popping in really quick. And then we also have this spot down in here, which we can do the same thing, removing the zoning along Front Street. And I'm kind of regretting that. I think actually Front Street could be a good area for some zoning right here. Yeah, let's get one nice building in here. Hopefully that works out. If not, we might need to, let's split it up a little bit. So I'm going to go into Find It, which is a great mod, and I'm going to go into the forestry section. Find It is basically just a list of everything in the game, and you just type it in, or you can use the grid patterns that you want. So we have a 3 wide industry square that we're looking for. Yeah, there we go. Oh, it filled in with a 2x2, and then it added a 1. So it's not what I'm looking for. So these are the only 3 options, or 3 unit options, and it doesn't look like we have anything that's going to really work. So let's go down to 2, and we'll look at any 2x2s. Doesn't seem like that is an option either. So this might end up not working out. So let's remove this and then put zoning back on 2nd Street here. Then we can get a nice 3x3 industry building right in there. And then we can probably even bring it right through here. However, once we get into this section here along 2nd Street, I'm thinking of transitioning this into commercial. So we have a bit of a mixed use right through here. Now, if we look at the district, I do have the waterfront district set up all the way along here. So this gives us a pretty unique little opportunity. If we turn zoning off of all of these roads, we get a nice frontage along Front Street where we can get some nice buildings. Let's get a bit of a mixed use again. We just learned there's not a ton of assets in that group. So by doing this, it should work out. And then again, along Front Street, let's get some warehouse type buildings. I'm actually pretty okay with having industry right through here, especially in this really awkward transitional zone. There's gonna be a ton of traffic through here in real life. And I believe having a bit of a warehouse style, which I like using the forestry buildings as, would play pretty nicely in this kind of character. Now we just had a massive building zone up in here. If we like it, which I do, we'll keep it, but I'm actually going to rethink how we had that set up. So maybe we don't get zoning right along here. This will allow us to have these buildings zone up right along these roads. So along First, Ivy in front, and then not directly on Monarch, which will be useful. Okay, I don't really like these bushes. I like the lumber right here, so we'll keep that. Or beside this warehouse, that looks pretty good. All right, so that kind of tells the story of how the town grew up. And we have our industry along the Front Street. And it even continues along into the lake, which makes a ton of sense. Especially when boat traffic was the only real method of transportation in this area back when this city was clearly founded. Okay, so by doing that, we've really upped our residential demand, and we're almost at our goal of 2,800 people, is it? 2,600, oh my gosh, so we're like right there. So let's just sim until we get there. I will just fill in these blocks with residential. Boom Town, there we go. So about 20 minutes into the episode and we got Boom Town. That's fantastic. And that gives us the rest of the episode to kind of play with some fun themes and getting in some unique histories into the area, because the next milestone is Tiny Town, which is 5,000. We'll go for it next episode, but depending on how things work out in the rest of today's episode, doubling our population basically will be quite the feat at this stage. So we'll look at that. But what did we unlock with Boom Town? There we go. We unlocked another tile. So if we were playing with tiles, that'd be really great opportunity. But we really haven't left our first tile. We've really kept ourselves condensed in Port Roberts at this point in the game. So if we're looking at expanding, we have 2 tiles technically that we could play with. So we unlocked airport areas. Well, a little early for airports, but we unlocked transportation. And holy moly, am I excited for transportation. I don't think we unlocked the rail yet, though, but we can get a bus going, which is really exciting. And also ferries, walking tours. Oh yeah, buses, trams, taxis, tours, and the post service. Oh my goodness, I love the post. We also got some new policies, the ore specialization, a bunch of interchanges, it seems, and a bunch of roads as well. We also unlocked cemeteries, elder care, and child health. The bus depot, toll booths, taxi depots, the post office, of course, like we mentioned, and a few other things. So we achieved Boom Town. What do we do? Well, one really, really crucially important thing we do is we get a cemetery in right now, right away. We don't want to forget this, because if we have a bit of a death wave, because we have been zoning pretty heavily lately with residential, our city's gonna get caught red-handed without the service to take care of people who have died. So let's get a cemetery in right away. So let's open up our toolbar, and we have our death care separated. So we have a couple options actually. We have the cemetery, and we also have a couple church assets from the workshop. But we'll use the classic cemetery. And where would a cemetery go? Well, you know, the colonial cemeteries would have been pretty close by, but up on a hill away from water sources. So I'm thinking this area in here would be a good location. So along 2nd Street here would be pretty neat. So we have a bit of a clearing. So let's kind of just slightly remove some of these trees. I know we said this was going to be a park, but I think we can still make it into that kind of build. So let's place the cemetery down. Yeah, we're going to place it right here. And I think this is going to play in really nicely. Let's grab a dirt road, and then right from here along 4th Street, we will come right to this point, and then we'll bring this road right in like that. I'm actually going to upgrade this road. I'm curious to see what this one looks like. Yeah, I think this one works out really nicely. This is Country Road, or 2-lane country lane, and I think this works out pretty nicely for what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this to be like a bit of a driveway for a back entrance to the cemetery. So there's probably a gate at some point along the cemetery, so it just makes sense that there would be an access road. So this cemetery has a steeple in it. It's a really old church. Now we can play with this a little bit. If we have some of our church assets, we can add to it. So this one in particular, which is called County Church, it connects really nicely right over top of the rundown cemetery church. And then you can add it in right here, and it looks like it belongs. So it makes things a little bit more prominent. I think that works out pretty nicely. So let's get a bit of residential right through here. I think that makes sense to do. Let's remove the zone right along here though, so we have a bit of space for some fence, for example. But we can get into a bit of micro detailing here. So you see there's the pavement, and then there's this awkward grass, and then there's the pavement again. So I wonder if we could add a bit of pavement in here. Doesn't look that great, but what about dirt? What if, yeah, that looks great actually. All right, so that looks really nice. Let's run a path right beside it that connects up to this intersection, and then let's upgrade the roads around here as well. I think that would be rather prudent of us to do. All right, so I was upgrading those roads, and I realized I was using roads without parking. So then I switched them to roads with parking, and then I realized that I wanted some to have no parking, and then I accidentally misselected what I wanted, and so I had to redo it a couple times. But there we go. So now, for example, we have parking along the residential area, but not in front of the school, especially where there's parking already for the school, and then not on any main access road, but on the residential road there is. Now I will be upgrading these to asymmetrical roads at least, but we don't have it unlocked yet, so we can't do that. All right, so we do have a bit of a death wave, so that is good that we are using our cemetery. So that is why right away you get a cemetery, and it looks like all 10 hearses are in use, so we might need to get a second one in place. So we have a couple options. We can go for the cemetery again, or we can use this asset from the workshop, which is church with graveyard. It's a small church. It has a graveyard attached to it. It counts as a cemetery. So let's place this one in a bit of a prime location. Perhaps we go downtown-ish. It can be a bit of an older building, or maybe we go along this main road here. That could be a pretty cool, prominent old church, for example. And what should we do here? Well, I really like the idea of this church kind of being an older church that grew up along the main avenue, but has, as the city's really grown up, it's become, it's very prominent on the main road now, and I think this still works out nicely. We need to just tweak it with Move It slightly so that it's not on the sidewalk over here. But I think this looks pretty good. It's lined up with the grid, which I think is important. And then I'm just going to open up the BOB mod, which you can open up with Alt-B. And this mod allows us to play with the assets and the trees inside of a building. So this one has the live oak in it and also has the young linden. And also has some bushes, which I think we've removed. It looks like we've removed them already. That's where they normally are. I think we made the right choice in our previous episode. So it looks like all of our configurations for the assets have remained from our other series, Fort Prairie. So this live oak, I think we might have to leave then if it's going to configure with everything we've ever done. However, I really don't like how large it is over top of the asset itself. So what if we go with the horse chestnut? I think that's a bit of a better tree. And I think that looks nice. Okay, so hopefully with that in place, yeah, we've already fixed our death wave. It also has 10 hearse, so it's the same amount of vehicles as the large cemetery as is in this small one. So it looks like we're running into some water issues now. So I think it's time that we sort that out with, say, a second water tower. But since we're talking about this anyways, let's look at building a park. And we've had this area earmarked for a park for a little while, and there is a water tower in it. Oftentimes you see parks with water towers in them because it's municipal land. It's easy to put a water tower in municipal land because it's city property anyways. Sorry, it's easy to put a water tower in a park because it's municipal land. Those were the words I was trying to say. So let's take our park district area, and then we will paint a district over top of this square plus a little addition. And we are going to name this Victoria Park. So if you missed last episode, we are basing Port Roberts off of New Westminster, BC, as well as Port Moody, taking some themes from Port Moody at least as well. And New Westminster was commissioned to be built by Queen Victoria back in the day, so I thought it was fitting to have this park named Victoria Park. So before we get going on this, I do realize I did forget something that I previously had mentioned we were going to do, and we were going to get a path in right over here. So let's just do this really quickly. I'm going to run a path right beside the stone wall here. Okay, very good. Now we have a bit of a shortcut for people. And it looks like people are already using it too, which is fantastic. Okay, really like the look of this area. This looks really, really nice. But let's get back to Victoria Park. And we are going to start this park off with something simple, and that is a main gate. You need to start off a park a park from the Park Life DLC with this in mind. So we're going to use the park main gate with parking because I feel like we could have an interesting kind of area if we have a bit of a parking lot. So let's place this parking lot right here. We've unlocked level 1 buildings for the park. So we got the park plaza, the info booth, the restrooms, and the cafe. Now, I don't know if we're going to use everything in this area, but it's a good thing to have. Now, one tip that I have for you when doing parks, which I took from Joybuild Cities, who is a member of the Skylines 6, which is the multiplayer collaboration series that we have. In case you haven't heard of it, it will be linked in the description. We have a joint Discord server. And anyways, Joy's recommendation in this tip is to, anytime you're building a park, in this early game, steal the park area from your original park. This will help you level it up to level 5, because in particular, I'm not planning on cramming in the assets to get Victoria Park to level 5. So if we pull the district over here, for example, where we're building a park, it'll help the attractiveness of the park. It'll help it to grow to level 5 very fast. So anytime I build a park in the near future with Port Roberts, I will be pulling the park area from Victoria Park so that we can do that. So let's run a few paths, and then we can figure out where we want our water towers, which I believe we'll still want up here in this corner. So let's think about this. We have our tree cluster over here, which I want to keep. A bit of open space down on this side, which could play nicely into a bit of maybe a memorial garden or something like that. So let's run a paved path right down through here, and we'll use our guidelines to keep ourselves centered, and we'll connect this up right to over here. But since we're going to connect it up right there, we need a gate. So let's, at least for this first park, so let's use a small park side gate. And we're just going to place this into place with move it, and then we will connect it up. Just like that. Very good. Now we have an entrance right there and right here. We should probably have some sort of entrance on this corner here. Actually, I think we're probably good. Maybe down on this side. Okay, so where are we putting our water towers then? Well, looking at where we are with this park now, I kind of don't want the water towers in the park anymore. So why don't we create a bit of a secondary park area with municipal land, maybe right here along 14th Street, which is called Walter Street at the moment. So let's rename this. And then, yeah, I think this would be a good kind of mini municipal park area that we could have our water towers in. So this is going to be a temporary kind of storage for water until we unlock some larger pipes. So we have two small water towers over here. We'll kind of connect this up with a bit of a park area as well. So let's look at some park assets we can place down. We could even include this area as Victoria Park, because any asset we place in here will help raise its value and entertainment value, because in order to level up, you need to have visitors and you also need to have entertainment value. So apparently we already have some pretty good entertainment value, but we're not going to put any gates on this side. This is going to be very much just a municipal park. So let's quickly choose a little park asset. Actually, a dog park could do wonders over here. This seems like a good little spot for it. It's a little busy on the road though, actually. I'm not the biggest fan of that. We could put a pretty good fence along it though. So yeah, why don't we do that then? We'll have the small dog park right along here. And then we'll run a good fence along the side. This works out really nicely. We have our fenced off area along here. I think we need to make it a little bit bigger. I was just looking for a parking lot asset, and we don't have any parking lot assets unlocked yet. So I think we'll just have to stick with having some fences along here as kind of some protection. And then we can just add in maybe a couple trees. We'll make this seem like a newer park. So we'll have some smaller trees along the outside here. Will also help kind of with the theme with the dog park asset itself. All right, and then you know, a nice big, that's too big. A couple of rocks. That also is good for the dogs. They love jumping on them and whatnot, don't they? So there we go, a fun open space for some dogs right beside Victoria Park. And then now let's kind of connect this up with the area. So I'm not going to fence this park in, but I may throw a fence along Walter Street here, just because I think that would make things a little safer, and we'll go with the classic iron park fence. All right, so we do have a fence there and here, but that makes sense to do so. The rest of it is going to be fully open. So let's get another kind of main park path. Okay, a fun little park here. Lots of open space, but still with some trees. Let's get all these trees clustered in this kind of core area. Yeah, that looks great. So now we need to add in a few park assets to help us level it up. Now I'm pretty sure we're probably already over because we have the dog park included in the park area. So that makes sense. But let's get some of the actual park life assets in it. Park life as in the Park Life DLC. And let's get some restrooms. I think that would be beneficial for the people. All right, so what else really needs to go in here? Well, we don't really have everything unlocked that we want in here, but you can always add a bit of detail like that. We could add in a food truck, for example, but I don't think that's this type of park. So I think we're gonna leave a lot of the detailing for when we level up the park itself. But let's get a few trees. Let's select this tree here, this big one, actually. And let's get one there, another one in here, and then over in here. And then we can get some of these pine trees to go around it. All right, very good. I think just the nature kind of aspect of this park is what's going to make it really nice. But let's think about this as a pedestrian for the time being. I'm walking along here, and I don't really want to go in this direction, but I do want to kind of go to maybe the public restrooms. So why don't we try and sneak a bit of a desire path through here? What is a desire path? Well, it's a path that people make that is not maintained by the city. And I like to use the just simple dirt path as representative of that. And you can do something like this with it. And it really shows that maybe people have just walked this area themselves and have created this dirt path. And then let's see if there's any other good kind of options for a desire path. Yeah, right here would be a great option for a desire path. So very good, a good themed park in there works really nicely. Now, if you've noticed that your name suggestion for the roads isn't in yet, well, I have recorded this one right after episode 1. So your name suggestions from episode 1 are not yet in the series. Okay, so what did we unlock with Boom Town? Well, we got buses. We could probably run a bus in today's episode, but then I want to talk about the rail network. So let's think about buses really quickly. Oh, we also got the post office as well. Let's jump to the post office first. It's in the industries tab. And the post office is one of my favorite assets because it looks so nice on a corner. So let's remove these commercial buildings here. And then right at 8th and Dean, which I believe we changed to something. I'll have to look back on the other episode and fix that. But right here would be a great little spot for the post office. This adds a boost to citizens' happiness, I believe. And let's make sure that we upgrade the roads around it. All right, so now we've upgraded all the roads in the old Main Street area, but we did lose some buildings here because when we upgraded roads, we removed our priorities. So let's fix that before any further mistakes are made. Okay, very good. So hopefully that all gets fixed. All right. So what were we about to do? Buses. We just did the post office. That's fantastic. We could also throw a taxi depot in, but we need to create a bit of a secondary industrial area, a permanent secondary industrial area, and I don't really have that in mind yet. So we're not going to do a taxi depot yet, but I think we could get a bus depot in. I'm going to temporarily place the bus depot with the rest of our industry over here. So let's just expand this temporary zone over on this side for a little bit, or a little bit farther. All right, so I just placed the bus depot down, and I'm just going to fill in this area with generic industry just to help out our demand a little bit. But we are definitely going to need to run a bus from this generic industry area. Oh, water. So we need to run a bus from this generic industry area into our city because we have a ton of people walking along here, which is totally great and everything. And definitely encourage that. We could definitely maybe think about even getting a bike lane through here, but not right now, not today. Let's get a bus through here. So I'll get a bus to stop along Young Way. Actually, maybe we encourage a bit of, improve the connections a little bit, because then we can definitely squeeze in a bit more. So if we can now get the bus stop along Young Way, I don't really mind clogging up the traffic. I was worried about clogging up the traffic on Young Way with a bus stop too, but now we have this secondary connection here. Don't really mind. So we'll get a bus stop there. We'll get a bus stop here. And then now we need to head into the city. So pretty simply enough, there are many routes we could take. But I want to just kind of hit the main kind of areas. So we're going to run this one right down Monarch Avenue. So right out in front of Victoria Park, we'll get a bus stop. And then we'll swing this one down. We'll skip a stop, or sorry, we'll skip a intersection here. And we'll get a stop right there. And then we'll do the same thing. And then we'll do one more. And then we're just going to basically turn right around. And I think in order to do that, we'll get a stop right here along First Street, and then we'll come right back. I'm actually hoping to go along front here. All right, so pretty simply enough, we have a bus line that goes from our industry area into the main street of this town. And let's just move this one right over to here. Unfortunately, we're taking a turn right here, but I think it'll be fine. This is just a temporary bus anyways. This is not going to stay. But now let's get a nice city bus kind of running through the town. So we're going to get this one. Oh, hey, Victoria Park leveled up to level 2. That's fantastic. We can't use any of these assets really. The chessboard doesn't really make sense in this park, and we're not along water for those piers. But let's get a bit of a back and forth kind of bus. And we're going to go along Main Street here. So we'll get a stop right here. And then we are going to get another stop right here. We're going to stop this one pretty often. And then right there as well. Then we'll go up 4th Street to about there. And then we'll get a stop right here. Actually, let's get one here instead. And then we'll continue up along 4th, and then right here we'll get another one. We'll go all the way over here to 10th, I believe it is, or 12th. Then we'll come back down here, and then we'll connect it back up. I am then going to mirror that all the way back with a second bus line. All right, so this is going to be good enough for now. Our town is pretty small. Let's set up our bus lines with names and different colors. So our bus line 1 is the bus line that we did our temporary one to the industry area, and it goes right along the main street. It connects up with our looped system. So I think it's all good. So we'll name this one Temp Line 1, and it will be, I think we'll keep it blue. But let's make this one a bendy bus or something like that. 70 people. Let's go 50 people. I don't think we'll need that many. But oh my goodness, looks like a lot of people are using the bus stops anyways. This one's downtown. Yeah, I think this is going to be beneficial. I think 8 is probably enough, so we'll leave it at that. Let's go back to our lines. We got bus line 2, which is the first of our 2 loops. I don't know which view is better. Yeah, here we go. The first of our 2 loops. So we'll have this one called Port Roberts Loop 1. And the way I like doing the loop buses is making them white and black, so they contrast each other nicely on the map, and you can see them pretty clearly that this is a looped line. You can choose 2 opposite colors, but I figured these ones work out nicely. Okay, and then let's choose a bus for these ones. Let's go with the articulated bus again, with 50 people. I think this is a good one to start off with. 50 is a good amount, so we'll keep that all going. All right, so Victoria Park leveled up. Do we have enough entertainment to get us to the next level? We don't. So let's look to improve that. Maybe we can add a cafe in the park that will help boost its value now that it's level 2. We could add, say, like a little teeny ice sculpture park or something like that. Particularly since we have a bus stop over here, we could add some sort of park asset in here that could really help out. It could go with a bit of a plaza that would fill in the space. Could go for a bit of a little garden as well. But I think we just need a little teeny cafe. I think that could go a long way. This is a bus stop in here, so why don't we make this seem like it's kind of a commercial building along the main street. All right, so another thing that can really add to the attractiveness of a park is if you add in these little assets in here. So we got a food truck, so we could theoretically, have a food truck stationed right here. Could have a second one down over on this side as well, but why don't we make a bit of a market or something like that? Maybe this is a bit of a farmer's market. Yeah, there we go. That adds a little bit of value to the land as well. Let's take a look now. Let's sim the game for a second. And yeah, it did boost it up a little bit, but we definitely need to do more. Oh, there we go. 430. So that's perfect. We don't need to do anything else until we get to level 3, where we unlock the gazebo, which is a great tool to help. Okay. So we have done a lot today. We've achieved Boom Town. We've set ourselves up really nicely for the next milestone. The next milestone, we got to get to 5,000, I believe. So that's only 2,000 more people pretty much. So why don't we finish off today's episode with a bit of a residential expansion. We'll leave this area open for now. I think that would be a good idea. And then we'll just fill this all in with residential. These large blocks look really nice. And speaking of the blocks, I did want to get a few more tighter grids in here. And then we'll also, that will also kind of help continue some of the names as well. So if we're looking at, jumpy. If we're looking at the way the road systems work, we have kind of a road going left and right off of Monarch. And then not another one that goes right, but we have another one that goes left and right. One goes left. So I think maybe we can squeeze in a few more roads. So I'm thinking we get one right here. And then we also get one right here. Then we can continue this one down all the way through. And then this one, I think we're good because it actually does connect up. And we're running out of power, so we'll have to play with that a little bit. And then I actually want to bring this one up one block. And then there's a large space between here. So let's bring this one up one. And then maybe let's bring this one right here. Really play with the grids a little bit. And then why don't we take one off? Yeah, I think that's fun. It really changes up the monotonous square after square if we do something like this. All right, so just checking up on the buses. Looks like PR Loop 2, we probably could use another 2 buses. And then let's go to PR Loop 1, and let's take a look at it. Looking at how many people are waiting at these stops. They're still pretty spaced out, but yeah, we could definitely use another 2, even 3 on this one. And then we'll look at our temp line. And this one has a longer route, so I think maybe we can up this to 10 buses. Now, they are still bundled together a little bit, but they'll space out soon. Okay, so we are growing our population. We have run out of space in our expansion today, so I guess all we can really do is upgrade the roads, and then we will call it a day, folks, with a great episode on setting ourselves up really nicely for the future of this town. Boom Town Milestone is a bit of an awkward transition between setting yourself up with kind of your intro city versus, you know, allowing yourself to expand a little bit. We didn't get to everything that I wanted to today, but I think next episode will really allow us to do that, where I can focus a bit on how we're going to connect our rail up into here. But yeah, I think we'll do that because we'll expand out into here next episode, where we will continue our grid up into a hill where we'll have to transition some things, and then that'll play strongly in how we bring the rail into here because of the terrain challenges. So we'll have a bit of a trench, and it's going to look pretty nice. But I really hope you liked today's episode, folks. Yeah, I'm glad we got this little park in here as well with our temporary storage facility, pretty much. And then we also have this zone here that I forgot. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's episode, folks. We will chat soon. Have a great rest of your week. Peace out.